deal with it. It is revolution time, my friend.
No. Yes. Do you share the concern of Kenyans when they watch those clips, when they see what our politicians are doing? Do you share the concerns?
Of course I do, and yet I'm also a participant in some way because I'm there. I'm there, and so sometimes you do a little moderation, and also be professional. I think it helps to be a little professional. So when you have a head of state say, shoot children on the legs.
Got a great business idea? Give it a domain name, GoDaddy. Every order comes with our effortless AI experience, GoDaddy Aero, which will generate a logo, landing page, and more for you in just a few clicks. With our award-winning support, to start an online business with us.
Because we must remind ourselves, Jeff,
no.
Kenya is a constitutional democracy. It's not a monarchy. We are not a kingdom under William Ruto. So, although he may have clearly acted against the Constitution by voting no, he was very vocal about it. And yet he's the chief beneficiary of that Constitution. But having been sworn under the same Constitution is bound. So a lot of these things, by the way, this foul language, some of it is impeachable. But I remember in 2013, when Raila and I were demonstrating, remember the Sufuria demonstrations?
Yes.
Before President Suluhu came in and wanted a meeting at Safari Park with Raila and Ruto, we were advised not to go to Kamukunji because instructions had come out that when they appear there, shoot them on the legs. So this shoot on the legs thing by William Ruto started a long time ago. And so that's why we are telling Kenyans now, this is time to register, mass registration of voters beginning today. I don't think IBC noticed that today was Sunday.
Yeah.
It's Palm Sunday, actually.
Yes.
So we hope that tomorrow, in the 30,000, do they say, registration centers?
Yes.
Kenyans are going to come up, particularly young Kenyans, who are saying to Kokadi, so they can now register, because they have to conclude this revolution.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this, Moesh. The insults haven't been going one way, they're going two ways. It's not just the president's side or administration, it's also your good friend Rigathi Gachagua.
What has Rigathi said?
Oh.
I think it's, Rigathi is a political scientist, right? And I have actually admired him because he really did it at the university. I studied law, Rigathi studied political science. And he's very good in mobilizing. And please don't forget, he's coming from a very difficult position of having been, in my view, unconstitutionally impeached. So the man is angry, and rightly so. There's such a thing as Russia's anger, in my view, but I don't remember him calling somebody a dog or anything like that. It's just within his constitutional right. He may show anger, right? But I think that, again, is subject to discussion. There may be those who think his language is difficult, but when you have a president coming out and say his deputy was a murderer. Now, first of all, you remember I went through a process when I was running as Raila Odinga's running mate in 2013 and 2017.
Yes.
And in 2022, when I decided to support him unconditionally, and then I went through an interview process. I think that it's important, even before you pick your running mate, to be able to ask yourself a question. And these days we have AI. AI can tell you whether Jeff is a murderer or something. You cannot then, after you have gone through, elected on one ticket, then turn around years later and say your deputy was a murderer, and you cannot prove it, because somehow you realize that it is time out, time up, your time is over, and then you lose sense of direction and decorum. Now, the office of the president under the Constitution is a very high office. He's a CEO of a country, and therefore you have to really show moderation. Even the good Bible, I mean, which I believe in, and I think William is a Bible reader as well. You know, when a king wakes up and you are angry, then the whole country becomes very uncomfortable. So I cannot, therefore, on a balance of probability, what William Ruto did by abusing and calling Rigathi a murderer, saying Eugene Wamalwa in unprintable things, and now he's come up with a new formulation. He wants them investigated for things I do not understand. I must tell William that in law, when you're dealing with people's will, right, one can die intestate or after writing a will. So the case of Kijana Wamalwa, for example, he died intestate. He didn't leave a will. And those matters are now in court. So how does William Ruto all of a sudden rise up and begin to call Eugene Wamalwa is not an administrator of the estate, he's not an executor, because an executor is if there's a will. The whole thing is funny, and matters are in court. I think this president has not been properly briefed. On the other hand, with regard to Rigathi Gachagua, when his senior brother died, it's nearly going to 10 years. A proper will was written. He died tested. He wrote a will on how the estate was to be distributed. And I'm actually informed that even students at the Kenya School of Law are able to look at that will. Very well written, very well executed. So 10 years later, for political reason, you want now to besmirch the character of your former deputy president. So these things are what I mean. I think there's a problem, some gap in briefing, because a head of state should be one who is properly briefed on before he utters some of this.
So the question is, how do we ride out this season of insults?
I think we will. We will. We have no option but to ride it out, because the church has come out, called out, hey, wait a minute, you can't do this, okay? And we should combine it also with these attacks on churches. You know, we're in a very bad space, Jeff. We have a constitution, and yet nobody seems to remember that. Those who swore to uphold this document are in violation on a daily basis. So the church has spoken out, and then even as if that was not enough, William Ruto goes also for the church. He says you're a partisan or whatever it is. And we all remember what happened in Whittimer Church when goons and the police attack a congregation. So things are seriously out of joint. That reminds me, Jeff, of what I once read in William Shakespeare. That times are out of joint. Oh, cursed spite that I was born to set it right. I think I was born to set it right.
Speaking of goons, why do they have to be goons at rallies? And also, on top of that, why do rallies have to have what we call a rent a crowd? People are paid to be there.
In our case, Kenyans come out. Look at what happened today in Tononoka. I believe those young people came out because Sifuna and Tim do not have that kind of money to rent a crowd. But Kenyans come to hear a different story. When we go, and tomorrow we're on a trail in the counties of Machakos, Makueni, and Kitui for the next 5 days, telling people to come out and register as voters. We will not be renting anybody. People are coming on their own volition because people are desperate. People are desperate for change. Remember, I used the word revolution. This is revolution time. What the young Kenyans started in 2023, and they were killed. I was nearly killed myself in 2023 in Mathare. And in 2024, when they got killed, and then, of course, the whole world took note of these young Kenyans who have now come in to change the world. Now, for me, therefore, in order for them to conclude that revolution, they have to come out. Remember, I've been saying, William Ruto said, shoot these demonstrators on the legs. not having remembered to look at Article 37 of the Constitution, where Kenyans have the right to picket, the right to demonstrate, unarmed, peaceably, unarmed. Do you remember, like you, Jeff, they are wearing the national flag, a bottle of water, and their smartphones.
Yes.
That is not being armed, for which they got killed. So, I think that the time to conclude the revolution is now. They say, William Ruto says, shoot them on the legs. I tell them to shoot William Ruto at the ballot. And they are ready.
So what's
That's why they say the Tuko card.
So let me ask you this. What's 2027 going to look like?
Well, we are now in 2026. I think that let's see what happens on the anniversary of on 25th of June this year. I'll be surprised if William Ruto's administration will come out again, give instructions to Inspector General Kanja and his team to escort goons again. That time assisted the governor of Nairobi. We get goons, and the goons are followed by the police to go and destroy property, blame it on the young Kenyans. Now, I hope this time they will be decent. I hope this time they will allow Kenyans to remember the fallen children. But if they come and confuse it again, because I said myself, when we take over, we will declare 25th of June a national holiday to remember the third liberation. Children shed their blood. That will be a public holiday. So if this now 2026 happens, I think that in 2027, if they interfere, they might bring around the revolution faster than expected. Therefore, the next election, 2027, it's not a normal election. It's going to be a revolutionary election. And that's why we are calling out IEBC. We are telling IEBC, you cannot afford to play with the future of this country. We looked at each of those new commissioners. And we told them, everybody knows that the perception is your William Ruto Commission. Prove the country wrong. Prove us wrong. We looked at each one of them. But now I'm surprised one of them, Commissioner Alutalala, is already saying, oh, we will now call stakeholders, political liaison committee, led by Mr. Miesa, who is supposed to represent all of us. And then we're going to look at how to continue using Smartmatic. Now we tell him, you cannot have political procurement of an election. Procurement, even by IEBC, is governed by a specific law on Public Procurement and Disposal Act of 2015. Therefore, the moment you say now you're going to lobby aside, right, and then you come and try to say you want Smartmatic to continue, the country will say no. So we are watching IEBC. And the message today, from where I sit, is we cannot have another stolen election. This is a revolutionary election. The commissioners have the rare opportunity to get the way we've been doing our elections correct. Remember the history of Chebukati, Sam Kivuitu, and others? We can't afford it because I've been a victim. Although you say that I've been in politics 40 years, but I want to say 40 years of, I think, integrity, self-sacrifice, service above self. 15 of those have been in opposition, denied victory, according to me, up to the level of the Supreme Court. And the history is there. I think the country is very clear on our history. So the message is IEBC cannot be allowed to mess around. We have information, for example, that the Smartmatic guys are now gathering information, right? Remember the Nyota program that William Ruto has been going around talking about, which is actually sponsored by the World Bank. It's World Bank money. Soft loan to the Kenyans is not William Ruto money. Now they are using that to gather information in order to develop, ideally, and subsequently, an algorithm. Remember, elections sometimes are won by algorithms. Remember, it's the same Smartmatic which even stole elections in America against Donald Trump. And he's been himself very loud about it. So we will not allow a situation where Smartmatic will be allowed to come and mess up this country again.
What about, for the longest time, dead people still vote? You know this. You know, how do we look at that voter roll?
You know, that whole thing, about that's the role of the IBC. Now, when they begin tomorrow, the mass enlisting of new voters, and their target was 6.3 million Kenyans. Allow me to take this opportunity to tell Kenyans, this is it now. This is it. Come out, take your vote. But of course, there are many young people who have applied for their IDs because you cannot vote. You cannot take your vote unless you have an ID. And therefore, one of the things we want to do is address the registrar of persons. Register of persons, of births and deaths, right? Which has a direct link with the voter registration. And the question we want to ask ourselves is whether to follow that register as it is, or have it audited, or have a completely new register. That is discussion we are having at the moment. But I can tell you, the dead voters, these are the ones perhaps that IBC, William Ruto IBC, if they continue that way, we'll continue to call them out. We had agreed when we met with them that we are going to have our experts sitting with them in a very independent way, because we want them to be independent, truly independent. But the moment they begin to talk on the sidelines that we want to renew this contract of Smartmatic, by the way, which was a framework contract. Now, framework contract is time-bound. If after 3 years, this contract has come to an end, because it did come to an end in 2024, they should have competitive bidding. This is what is expected of a working, independent electoral commission.
Is it fixable in 15 months, within 15 months?
Yes, it is. It is. We have time. We have time, including the need to have a new CEO. Remember the famous Marjan? Even when we sat at NADCO that time, remember NADCO?
Yeah.
I was privileged to co-chair, but there was lack of political will, so there was no movement. But one of the things we recommended was Marjan should not supervise the 2027 elections. He's out of the way. Now, they have, the new commission must have, in a competitive way, transparent way, appoint a new CEO. We know, following this thing very closely, we know William Ruto would want the current acting CEO, Mr. Sunkuli, to continue. Sunkuli was the one who was responsible for the register of the dead voters and the alive voters. So all these things, we are going at it with a microscope, a tooth comb, if need be, to make sure that the coming election will be transparent, will not be manipulable, and so that is where we are.
Speaking of which, and a lot of millions of Kenyans want to know right now, is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka running for president?
The answer is yes. I remember in past interviews, like when you were away, Sam Kituku must have asked me the same question.
Yes.
I've been a little ambiguous, but to avoid any ambiguity going forward, I was given on the 10th of October last year the go-ahead, the mandate to seek the high office, and prayerfully we have accepted, and we are ready for it psychologically. And I think we have the support of the Kenyan people. I think the Kenyan people want this change.
Are you running for Azimio? Are you running for Wiper? Who are you running with?
Well, good question. Good question. We are in the process of forming a formidable coalition. I was privileged to replace my late brother Raila Odinga as the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya party leader, and the chair, as we speak, of the council is former President Uhuru Kenyatta. But I know that Uhuru's intention is to ease off, all right? We take the view that, and of course they did everything to stop that. They have not even gazetted those changes. The government printer and government press were instructed, because the implications of registering that was, we had already said, Junet Mohammed, who is supposed to be the majority leader, but has accepted to be the minority leader against the ruling of the Court of Appeal that Azimio la Umoja, as we speak, is the majority party in Parliament, in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
It is a minority in the Senate, but in the National Assembly, it is a majority party. But Junet Mohammed said, oh, he leaves that to Kimani Ichung'wah. If they had registered, gazetted the changes in Azimio, we made it clear that he is not our Secretary General. We have Mheshimiwa Karoli Omondi as a new Secretary General. So we're looking at that, and my advice to my colleagues is we already have a vehicle. Let's use it. Let's use it, perhaps change the name. And I hear the word ukombozi. Ukombozi. It is time to liberate this country.
Can you do it?
Oh, yes.
Are you the man?
Well, yes. I will be the first among equals if my colleagues take that decision. Of course, we'll be going out of our way to try and persuade them. So that is the space we are dealing with right now. And I think a lot of Kenyans expect, I personally do expect, that my colleagues will give me that respect. If they do, William Ruto will be one term. And he knows it.
The question other people are asking is this your final bullet in the gun, if you will? Is this your final chance?
No, Jeff, that thing about bullets and things, I think that when my late brother was saying the last bullet,
yes,
and then others said, no, now he's come up with a bazooka. I think that these days you have drones and things, the last drone. Not really. I think it is just being practical, downright practical, and we have done all the necessary preparations. We continue to. You cannot win alone. It is the responsibility of every Kenyan. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka can say, yes, I want to be president. But we don't want that to be a vain slogan. It has to take into account the actual situation in the country. Therefore, we have an agenda, a very clear agenda. Our education system is a mess right now. When I was Minister for Education one time, I came up, actually appointed the late David Koech as the chair of a review commission that time. He came up with a document called Ticket. We wanted to change the 844 system, which a lot of parents were saying it was a case of too much play and too much work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. But then after that, many years, President Kibaki comes up with free, and that is in our constitution, free and compulsory basic education. Now, Kenyan parents don't know what's happening. When I was a minister again, I started the Higher Education Loans Board. I don't know which years you went to university, but the current governor of Baringo today was a CEO I appointed as a CEO of Higher Education Loans Board. We have to realign our education system again. We have said that a country that cannot be predictable in terms of its tax regime cannot attract investors. And therefore, Executive Order number 1, do away with incredibly volatile and very, nobody believes in this housing levy thing. The housing levy will be out, and other taxes that make Kenya very unattractive. Do you know a lot of investors, we are members of COMESA, I'm sure you've heard of Common Market for Southern, and Egypt, for example, is a member. A lot of investors will go to 10th of Ramadan city in Cairo, the outskirts of Cairo, to do manufacturing as opposed to Kenya. I hold the view very strongly that this country can be on a serious road. Remember, Kibaki and us started Vision 2030. 2030 is several years away. We have to take stock of what we have achieved, all right? Because Kenya was supposed to be a high-income, middle-income country on our way to achieving higher status, what William Ruto calls Singapore, all right? But you can't go to Singapore with the level of corruption you have in this country. So, 24-hour economy. That is what I said when I ran for president. By the way, Jeff, you seem to have forgotten, I ran for president.
You did?
In 2007.
That's right.
Got a lot of votes.
You got a lot.
Just under 1 million.
But you know what? You petered Katikati in the end.
Yes.
And became vice president.
Yeah.
However, a lot of people out there are saying, you know, this man, you've been in the game for 40 years.
Yes.
What do you have to offer? What do you have? You know, they say, yes, what new thing is you good? Let me take a break. Let me take a break. I'm going to come back, and I want you to answer that question. What new stuff do you have to offer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're speaking live in Karen with White Wiper Patriotic Front party leader, and also Azimio party leader Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. He's just announced that he's running for president. What are your thoughts? Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Sunday Live. Sunday Live takes a break. We'll be back.
Everybody, Mama Bogas and everybody complaining. So we intend to restore good order, constitutionalism. It will be a country run under the rule of law. Seriously, remember, yours truly is also actually senior counsel. And I think it's about time the country tried a lawyer to sort out the mess. The other day I saw William Ruto say he's a very proud farmer and that kind of thing. I cannot do business as president. I will just lead. I'm a leader. I'm not a businessman. So we will create the environment for this country to prosper, realize, as I said, Vision 2030, which Kibaki and us started, right? And from there now go to the next level. We must get the country back on the right footing and make sure there are no police brutalities, right? I want to invite William Ruto and his team to again read the Constitution clearly. The rights, the Bill of Rights is very clear. We imported the entire Bill of Rights into our Kenyan Constitution. Therefore, Kenyans now know their rights, all right? It's important that the next leader will make sure that this country is run in accordance with the Constitution.
And for the Gen Zs who are listening to you right now, what's the difference between Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and William Ruto? What's the difference?
Well, I wouldn't want to, I would never order them to be shot. I want those Gen Zs to know it is not enough to say, oh, okay, we are going to compensate you, we killed you, we give your parents 100,000 shillings. And by the way, if William Ruto is thinking about that compensation, I want to ask, what does it cost to have one Kenyan life lost? You cannot compensate monetarily. Young people with a whole future ahead of them. Look at the fallen Martin Masai who fell because he was shot on the legs. Boniface Kariuki, whom we went to bury, and poor fellow was selling masks to demonstrators, peaceful demonstrators, right? So we will be different, definitely. Even as I speak, I'm not William Ruto. I can never be William Ruto. The country is also reeling from politics of deceit. I mean, day in, day out now, ordinary young people are saying, whom do we trust? I want to tell them that because of my experience and what we really have to offer, they can rely that what I say as head of state, I'll mean what I say and make sure that this country is again back on its feet. As I said, under the Constitution, and also a God-fearing country. We will not order goons. We will get goons out of our streets. For goodness sake, the police will have to know they are servants of the people. Of course, we will also cut down taxes. We need to bring investment. Remember, I talked about 24-hour economy. We will be in a hurry to restore the confidence of the investors can come and invest in this country. Right now, there is capital flight, the opposite of what should be happening. So there's a lot we can do. Of course, we are working out a detailed manifesto. But Kenyans are now got to a stage, and I do understand if they are a bit skeptical, when you say I've got a manifesto, say another manifesto. The manifesto number one, they simply be saying William Ruto has to go. By the way, I have to encourage him to begin to socialize himself to the possibility of an election loss. He will not be the first one. When in 2002, we elected President Kibaki, President Moi was seen like a strong man, but Moi graciously handed over to Kibaki. Uhuru Kenyatta graciously accepted defeat, and that is what made him a statesman. We want William Ruto to prepare himself to accept, because he's behaving as if he cannot win, he cannot accept a win, a loss. He cannot accept, and making Kenyans believe that he's insurmountable. I want him to prepare himself so that we have a tradition of leaders accepting defeat, all right? So I wanted to make that very clear to him.
Yeah. Look, you belong to a group that calls itself the United Opposition.
United Alternative Government.
That one, okay.
Because you don't want Kenyans to think opposition.
Right.
For the sake, what this country needs is not even opposition. It is a working system that delivers the best to its citizens.
Okay, there are others. There are others in your group who want to be president as well.
Yes.
Fred Matiang'i wants to be president.
Indeed.
Ricky G wants to be president.
Yes.
Martha Karua wants to be president.
Indeed.
Maybe even George Natembeya wants to be president. Eugene Wamalwa. Do you have a working formula for who you're going to select, or is it going to be, a grouping that's going to be scattered when you get closer to the election time?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, this is a serious enterprise. It is a type that requires, like we did in the case of Kibaki, we were all running. By the way, in 2002, I was running for president. The late Jose Totu was running. Yes. Raila Odinga was running. Nyachai seriously was running. And they all didn't end up running. We have to get a formula. And of course, we ask for Kenyans to pray for us. I'm sure we'll get a formula. We'll get a formula.
Are you talking? Are you?
Oh yeah, we talk, but at the moment, that is not our priority. The priority is now to make William Ruto one term and to give confidence to the young Kenyans who have been killed for no reason whatsoever. That's our number one thing. Unity of purpose, right?
Yeah.
And when the chips are down, I'm quite sure we all look at each other. Fred Matiang'i said he would want some scientific method. We use all those things, to arrive at the next leader.
And if you're not the one?
Well, of course, if I'm not the one, I will support. I'm known for that. I supported, even when I was not, when I was taken through an interview, I supported. But I think the country is saying, wait a minute, this man, why him? This time, let's try him. It's not a matter of trying. This man is tried and tested. You also need a father figure, by the way. Not one who every morning wakes up and is either deceiving people or making them go through very impossible situations like Raphael Tuju. I was very angry when I saw the way they tackled Raphael Tuju. Yeah, he's treating him like a terrorist. In front of a senior counsel, brought him peaceably to a police station. And they turn on him and become brutes. So we must change this country. And we are determined, and I believe the country will stand with us. It's not a normal time.
Yeah. One of the things you've been criticizing, you and your colleagues, is Shah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you have an alternative to Shah?
Of course. Shah has come out like a cartel. I have a little daughter there working called Mwangangi. I don't know why they gave her that job, an impossible job. We wish her well. But National Health Insurance Fund had these shortcomings. All you needed to do was to rectify that. But right now, it is terrible. It is really terrible. Teachers and everybody, teachers are falling out of it, right? Nobody has confidence. And end up with an administration which also wants to take over Nairobi Hospital, take over that. They forget that Kenyatta National Hospital is a mess. Moi Referral Hospital in Eldoret is a mess. So why don't we rectify those that are within their province and leave alone a hospital run by Kenya Hospital Association? I think I'm actually a member myself. I think you also must be a member.
Correct.
A company limited by guarantee. Charles Njonjo, the late Charles Njonjo, was a chair. And that hospital was running, right? Again, there are no angels out there. We are told that this hospital made a lot of money, all right? 12 billion, not profit, because when you are limited by guarantee, you don't make profit,
yes,
right? But people realize, wow, 12 billion. People are interested in procurement, contracts, and things like those. So they try and mess up there. We understand there may have been senior doctors also who have genuine concerns about the way the hospital should be run, but not this kind of approach. So SHA, Social Health Insurance Fund, just like other funds, look at National Infrastructure Fund, and Sovereign Wealth Fund. What William Ruto's administration wants to do is to remove parliamentary oversight, create through some system of selling parastatals. And I must tell you, I was in court this day. By the way, the day I went to try to help Tuju, I'd come out of court where we got orders against the selling of the shares by this administration to Safaricom shares. And I'm so happy we stopped that. And Justice Mugambi agreed with us that now, no, you don't deal. As we speak, they are not dealing. Although they had the 1st of April deadline to comply with whatever else. But a stop was made there. 3 judges have now been appointed by the Chief Justice, right? And I want you to realize that as Vice President, I wasn't regular in court. But I had now to come out, pull my sleeves, when I saw Jomo Kenyatta International Airport being privatized in a manner which was opaque and therefore denying, in fact, being a security installation. We had to come up and stop it. Now, we've done the same with Safaricom. We hope that judges will agree with us when we now come to make presentations, because this is literally the goose that has been laying the golden egg for Kenyan youth, innovation and things. Our M-Pesa application is world famous. Now you want to just give that away? What are you going to leave our children with? So there's a lot we can do. So this SHA thing is terrible. Now look at e-citizen. Have we not read that a day ago, some people are actually withdrawing monies? We ask ourselves, who is it who has withdrawn 63 billion shillings out of e-citizen? So what we have is an administration which is actually a thieving cartel. I'm reminded of the one time Edward Clay, High Commissioner of the UK, who said, we have stolen and you're vomiting on our shoes. Now we're vomiting on each other's shoes. We must get our country back. That's why, Jeff, I believe it is important. Time is of the essence, and we are not going to leave anything to chance. So our teams are clear. Yeah.
And you were around that time, and you remember Zaire and under Mobutu.
Yes.
They called it a kleptocracy.
Indeed.
Remember? A government run by thieves.
It's worse. This is worse. This is incredible. And if you come to think of it, how do you sell the parastatals, and then you have you kind of now all these parastatals now will be now run as companies limited by shares, which means some fellow will just wake up, buy everything, all right? And we cannot accept. We can't accept.
When you were education minister, you remember back then?
Yes.
And you were trying.
I outlawed corporal punishment, by the way.
Oh, that was horrible. You shouldn't have. You shouldn't have.
It's the right of the children worldwide. So I had to do that. I said there shall be no corporal punishment. Because I also remembered I was growing up.
Yes, you were.
One classmate was almost killed by a teacher. He was beaten dead. He survived somehow. And when I remembered that, I said, no, we must outlaw corporal punishment.
Now, but
it's not a case of sparing the road and spoiling the child. No, you must get a balance.
What do you think of CBC or CBE or whatever they call it now?
Parents don't know what to do with year 10. There's a gap. I heard the other day from the Catholic Bishop of Machakos, that over 360 day schools are closing down. And if you remember, Uhuru actually came up with a free day schooling, and that was a big achievement. Now, those are closing down. I think William Ruto is in a hurry to implement this CBC thing. This is why one of the things we shall be able to do very quickly and precisely, because we also don't want to end up confusing children, right? Is to have a quick look at this whole thing. Yeah.
Thousands of teachers have been trained.
Yeah.
Waiting to be deployed. The government can't pay them.
They can't even employ the 44,000 interns. I saw the poor TAC CEO, acting CEO.
Yes.
A good lady in my view. Yeah. I don't know whether they have not confirmed her, Mitabe or somebody. I actually visited her in her office. I thought she makes sense. But she's now faced with an impossible situation. 44,000 interns. William Ruto cannot even employ them. All right?
Yeah.
So it's complete confusion in the education sector, and we must set it right. And even teachers do not know, under this CBC, kids are tried now. It used to be when you do well, Like I'm an old boy of Meru School. We were celebrating 70 years, and our motto was, "In understanding be men," right? Mm-hmm. Now, this CBC thing, when you score well, you get an E, all right?
Yeah.
Surely, even psychologically, an E was a failure. Now, then you double E or something,
yeah.
exceedingly something.
Yes.
I think they were in a hurry to implement a system that they themselves were not sure about. So these are things we must set right. Education is everybody. If you confuse our children's education, then you end up confusing whole generations. So we will act in a hurry to streamline it.
Real quick, if you were president under Shah, what would you do? Would you reverse it? Would you go back to NHIF?
Of course you go to NHIF and stop the stealing. Because this money is going to people's pockets. And we do not know how much money is enough for some of these people. By the way, I hear that a lot of them are already beginning to see the inevitable will happen. So they're beginning to make ways of exiting even before they are caught up. I think it's a terrible situation. Yeah.
Let's switch gears now. And CAF, you know very well, football committee, the continental one, has said that Kenya may not be eligible to host the 2027 AFCON because A, there's a fee of about 3.6 billion shillings that hasn't been paid, and our stadia are not ready for it. Talanta, Nyayo, Kasarani. Yeah, they're not ready.
You sure thing. You know, I'm a soccer lover. Although a lot of Kenyans love Arsenal.
Yes.
This is so close and never there.
Yeah.
And we used to go out there with Raila and Oparanya. Oparanya, surviving enthusiast of Arsenal. But I think Kenyans love soccer. I'm actually a patron of Sofapaka, Batoto Bamungu. And when I was young, I used to play for the National Assembly. I scored the only goal against a German Bundestag and the floodlights at Nyayo Stadium.
Yes.
And although my late friend Raila was a good commentator, but he was not as good a player as I was. But when I see an opportunity that Kenya can host AFCON, and then they want to squander that, it is regrettable. It is really regrettable. But I think it was one of the bases of the East African countries, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania.
Yeah.
I hope the other two countries are ready. If they are ready, we'll push these guys. We'll push them. But if you look at the story of Talanta itself, it's another corruption issue. Kenya Commercial Bank was forced to do certain things there. The whole thing against mayors of corruption. It's a beautiful stadium, you look at it. But again, terrible.
Yeah.
Nothing seems to have worked for these people.
And the rain keeps falling.
The rain keeps falling.
By the way, which team do you support?
Sorry?
English team.
The ship?
English team.
English for right now?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm Arsenal still. I'm Arsenal. Ooh. Oh. Yeah, I used to have my friend Mudavadi, my DVD.
Yes.
He's a fan, I think, unless you are changed, of the Red Devils. What are they?
Those ones.
I said, you will not walk alone. That was the clarion call. But I'm still Arsenal.
Wonderful.
And I hope that this time around, this Manchester City, I don't know, they have a capacity to reinvent themselves and
last minute.
That little Saka fellow, wonderful.
Excellent. Let's switch gears.
Yeah.
Infrastructure. SGR is proposed, is going off from Naivasha to Kisumu, from Kisumu to Malaba.
Yes.
Is that a good idea? Are we ever going to recoup our funds once this is rolling?
Again, the whole thing is shrouded in some secrecy. Kenyans want to know. It is not bad to have infrastructure. That is what Uhuru did under Jubilee, the Standard Railway. We would have done it. We should be thinking of speed trains, right? And my priority has always been Mombasa-Nairobi. And Mombasa-Nairobi is a killer road, right? We will give that top priority. Of course, the traffic jam between Nairobi, Nakuru, all the way to, of course, Rironi to Mau Summit, was originally to be done by the French. They were shortchanged. I think a lot of reparations were paid to the French company, right? Kenyan taxpayer money again, right? And until William Ruto now comes again with CBRC. Everything seems to be CRBC in this country, including the railway city, right? So the British are also asking, what in the world is going on here, okay? So there must be fair competition. But more importantly, Kenyans at the end of the day will end up paying. This is Kenya's taxpayers' money. They want nothing but transparency, okay? Even as we put pressure, because it's important, I know President Museveni, the old man in the region, was there to join William Ruto as they're extending this railway line. But all of this is okay. But look, William Ruto has been invited to go to France in the month of June.
Correct.
By President Macron, right? To be a participant in the G7.
Yep.
At the same time, he's denying these French companies of using Kenyan taxpayers' money to compensate the French company, which had won the tender. So some of these things are incredible, really. We hope that the truth will eventually get known. So, yeah, again, we don't know. Nobody seems to know.
Yeah.
And the same William Ruto will say, by the way, I hope he quickly constructs the road to my village. He said that. Those Kenyans who live in Sekuru also are taxpayers. And these projects have been delayed. I'll be telling these Kambas when I move down tomorrow that from Kibwezi through Mwingi to Maua in Meru to Isiolo, that is the shortest route to landlocked Ethiopia. And that road is delayed by over 10 years. So now William Ruto is trying to say, because he sees the threat coming from our side, he wants to tell those Mukambas, I'm doing something for you. Let him do it quickly.
At the same time, there's a lot of development happening in only certain regions. I'm sure you've noticed.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've noticed.
Yes, yes.
Is that political? Is that deliberate?
We don't know. Again, that old story. Remember, the right to development is a basic right. Raila and I spend our lifetime trying to tell Kenyans that please do not go and bow down and say, Your Excellency, Mr. President, we want this road, we want this thing. There's a committee in Parliament dealing with budgeting, all right? And so let there be equal development. And therefore, the essence of devolution, which William Ruto has been trying to kill. Governors are crying. Even the procurement systems is also getting interfered with. Yeah. So the governors now cannot procure independently of whatever. So everybody in the country is completely unhappy and very unsettled. So an equal development, yet the right to development. You get people going to State House to be paid 10,000 shillings attendance fee. And but there are a lot of them are asking, now when we go to this State House under Big 10 and we are given 10,000 shillings and then our details are taken, they scan the IDs, could this be another attempt at rigging? That's why I started by saying we will not leave anything to chance.
You were part of 3 administrations or maybe more. And look, our pride and joy.
I mean, AI can now build a website in 90 seconds while the only AI most people know is ChatGPT.
Then they went to Kigali. And you see what Kagame has done is I think Qatar Airways has bought some 49% shares, I can be corrected, in Rwanda Air. And if you travel the world, you find that London Heathrow, for example, where Qatar Airways parks, that is Air Rwanda parks there. Now, this is a shame, but the solution is not by bringing in characters like Andani who have been indicted in the US for underhand dealings and hope they can transform Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It needs a bit more openness in approach. Maybe one could have talked to Emirates, other people. I've always this dream is not a dream. I've asked experts to look at it. Now that we have a lot of instability in the Gulf countries, don't you think it's about time we develop Mombasa as another Dubai? It is possible. This is a way to go. All right? So as we do so, we must have a first-class international airport.
Are we going to Dubai or are we going to Singapore? Which one are you going to? I mean, decide.
I told you, we start by taking stock of Vision 2030, okay? And kill corruption. You can't go nowhere without, first of all, addressing the basics, the national mood, right? And the thieving culture. We must stop it because you can't go anywhere. There's a clip which is circulating by the Prime Minister of Singapore.
Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew was celebrating his 90 years. But the current Prime Minister invites him for a cutting ceremony. And what Lee Kuan Yew told the Prime Minister, if you remember nothing, remember one thing, clean government. Now, would this government pretend for a minute they are clean government and they can take us to Singapore? You hear more ridiculous things. My friend Dr. Oburu remembered that Raila used to say, we are going to Canaan. All right? So now because he's in a hurry to cut a deal with William Ruto, he says, oh, we are going to Canaan via Singapore. So we have to be realistic. You have to be realistic, Jeff.
You were Foreign Affairs Minister, the youngest in Africa.
At the time, maybe.
At the time, yes. No. Yesterday, the President held a meeting with ambassadors. And the thing that came out is Kenya is a failed state. He was not very happy about that. Your thoughts?
You see, those days it used to be that communication was through the famous diplomatic bag, right? What we must be telling our ambassadors and high commissioners, our members of the diplomatic corps, is economic diplomacy. And that's what I've spent a sizable time talking to you about, that to attract investment so that we revive these industries, so that these young Kenyans will wake up every morning from Kibera going to the industrial area will perchance find a job, and that those factories eventually will begin to work and 24-hour economy shifts, some working at night, some working during the day, so that we can deal with this problem of unemployment. Unemployment today is the biggest thorn. And yet, we have a youth budge, which can be turned around to become the world-beating innovators. So, he met these ambassadors. I think he does not have much to tell them. As I started by saying, my friend William is a botanist. That's why he doesn't know the law of inheritance. Where you write a will and you do whatever, and it's not the president's business to question a will. That is the work of the courts of law and other people. So stop those threats about some of these issues and focus attention on how to develop this country. And I think this is why, seriously today, Jeff, I prepared William Ruto to accept that he's going to be one term. And it is not a crime. In fact, he should thank the Kenyans for allowing him to live through one term.
You were very instrumental as Foreign Affairs Minister in regional conflicts.
Yes.
From South Sudan to Burundi to DRC to you name it. I'm not sure if warlords then were granted Kenyan passports.
No.
But what's happening now in the Greater Sudan with RSF leaders getting Kenyan passports?
It's worse than that, Jeff. This country is a transit country for arms, right? Through RSF, getting RSF here, getting money, getting arms across to go and fight in Sudan. And I must remind our viewers that I did quite a lot to work for the fact of through comprehensive peace agreement, CPA, the Republic of South Sudan, it remains the newest republic in the country, in the world. But apart from South Sudan, there's of course Khartoum, which has been destroyed. Darfur is a gold-producing region. That is why we had the famous Janjaweed.
That's right.
During that time President Bashir's reign. All right?
Yep.
And I had to convince Bashir that time to allow John Garang to allow Khartoum to be Sharia-free during the duration of the comprehensive peace agreement. I had to get President Bouteflika, who since rested, of Algeria, to work on Bashir, and then that's how we got things going. Of course, Dr. John, we miss him a lot, the father figure of South Sudan. So, what is happening between William Ruto and RSF is bad. First of all, these are the pure, I wouldn't say call them Arabs, because there's a personality around Sudan which is very unique. But the Janjaweeds don't like black Africans.
Yes.
They have killed a lot of them.
Yeah.
In fact, even as the war in the Gulf continues, there's killing field in Sudan, in our neighborhood here. Kenya is a participant. Our foreign policy orientation has always been active non-interference in affairs of other countries. That is why we were trusted to be the go-between, to be the arbiters, to promote peace and reconciliation. And did that, even in Burundi, with the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. One time we put sanctions against Burundi, they didn't seem to work, and President Mandela came on board. Even the DRC, when Kabila was taking over Kinshasa, Kabila Senior, and Mzee Moi and I went to Togo, and the late Dr. Ahmed Salim was Secretary General of OAU. We used to have what they call the central organ for conflict management and resolution. Now it has become a complete Security Council for AU, for African countries. We were able to help Somalia. And Somalia, in the month of May, I hope they're going to get their act right as well and have some elections. Sudan, South Sudan is supposed to have elections as well by December. We wish them well. So I've been watching this. Ethiopia, of course, is at the moment having some serious shocks. Yeah. And the war in Ogaden that time was a big issue. I declared myself a member of a clan in Somalia called Digli Merifli because we got Buster Bethel Kiplagat here and I to work very hard. We formed the TNG. We handed over government to the world in Somalia. It didn't seem to work until the Islamic courts took over. So, and of course I forgot to tell you, I was the first chair of the Ministerial Tripartite Commission that restarted East African Community. Mwalimu, at that time it was Ali Hassan Mwinyi,
yes.
Mzee Museveni and Mzee Moi, who decided they wanted to start the community. And I was privileged. Rugunda is, I think, the current Prime Minister in Uganda. And before Kikwete, there was a minister called Regasira and myself. I was the chair. And we started this thing at KICC. So I'm very proud that integration has been happening. But under the watch of William Ruto, the last 1 year has been a disaster. DRC is a member of East African Community. They have not even paid up their membership. South Sudan is also a member. Okay, Somalia joined as a member. I don't think they have paid up their membership. So the future is in integration. So that the bigger the economies, the more opportunities there are for the young people. So we have these templates, and we want to, I'm in a hurry to get these things working. Yeah.
Those passports were given illegally.
Passport, of course, is terrible. What has happened is terrible. That would never have happened. You know, young Kenyans are struggling to get their passports, right? They can't get them. But a warlord walks into the 23rd floor of that building, what is it called?
Nyayo House.
Nyayo House. And you get, so passports are on sale. And that degrades the value of the Kenyan passport. What actually that means is any Kenyan traveling anywhere will be seen like an accomplice of the war in Sudan. It is terrible. It's unacceptable. And we have made it clear, we issued a statement that these things should be cancelled.
The government says it's procedural.
Procedural? We know that what that means. They've been paid handsomely to give those. And again, the gold trade, I forgot to mention, between Darfur, illegal gold, if you like, blood gold, is exported to the Gulf countries through JKIA, cleaned here, given certificate of origin as Kenyan gold. Now we have our gold in Kakamega we should be working on now in a transparent manner, okay? But this is what has been happening. It's anything this administration has touched, it's a scandal.
Staying with foreign affairs, the war in Iran right now, this is going to spike oil prices, either way you look at it.
I saw one day the expert, expert friend, who should be the majority leader in the National Assembly,
yes.
saying,
we have a million.
Saying, no, we have enough stocks, we have enough stocks. Yeah. Of course, we all pray that, because I saw the statement by Mark Rubio, that with some amount of weeks, maybe before these hostilities stop. Of course, the struggle over the Strait of Hormuz, whether it is the sovereignty goes to Iran or to the US, and I saw that President Trump has said he has given moratorium before he hits Iran again over the Strait of Hormuz. Let us hope that some discussions are going to happen and somehow that Strait of Hormuz will be open. Because then I think if it doesn't happen, the implications are already here. Yeah. So William Ruto's administration is accusing businessmen of hoarding, that they are waiting to make a killing because of anticipated shortfall in oil supplies. That is a dangerous situation. We can all hope that these hostilities will end. Because what is happening in that region, in the Middle East, has a big, big impact worldwide.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of the Middle East, also Palestine, what's been going on the last couple
Gaza.
Of years. It's nuts, crazy.
You talk about over 80,000 people dead.
Imagine.
And even now, in southern Lebanon, quite a bit happening there. You see, a lot of Kenyans believe you cannot fight and win against Israel. It's in the Bible.
Yeah.
So I don't blame anybody. But again, these excesses need to be negotiated and brought to a conclusion.
A lot of people have been talking about a two-state solution. Is that what it should be?
Can I surprise you?
Go on.
I went into Ramallah and met President Abbas in the occupied West Bank when I was vice president. And then I just met with the president of Israel, and they had a good working relationship. He actually asked that I go talk to him. I realized these people are talking. And then they actually said, now, Vice President, you go carry out your elections and come, continue. I think that's my forte. I like to work for peace anywhere, given an opportunity. But that did not happen because 2013 came, and then we all know the rest is history. I've never been back.
The rest, as they say, is history. Back home, a lot of farmers are complaining that fertilizer prices are crazy.
Everything.
Going through the roof.
Everything. Everything. Remember, there was fertilizer gush, right? Another scandal. And I tried to talk to Minister Lenturi, who was fired as Minister for Agriculture. He was taken as a scapegoat. All right? The effect of that on the farm, on our industry, and the farming, because this is a country, and I really love these young Kenyans. They are even going into smart farming. You see them on their computers doing incredible things. But we need fertilizer. We need fertilizer. Fertilizer gush came, made lined people's pockets. It's the same story. That nothing this administration touches, which is not underpinned by corruption considerations.
Look, looking back, you're 40 plus years in government, in politics. Greatest achievement, greatest regret.
Yeah, wow. I think the fact I'm still there to tell the story and to fix, to try to offer a solution gives me a sense of pride that I have not, when I went into parliament as a young Kenyan at age 30, an auntie of mine told me in an open baraza, mtoto wangu, kwenda ukachunge uongozi vile mimi auntie wako nimechunga doa yangu. Now that was very deep. That was, yani mama huyo alichunga doa. Akasema nikachunge uongozi vile yeye amechunga hiyo doa yake. I think I've lived true to that challenge. And that auntie, since I've rested many years now, I am proud that I have not let her down. Therefore, that's a sense of achievement at that level. Of course, I know I represent a big constituency. A lot of them will feel, you've been in opposition these 15 years with Raila. Now at least Raila went in there, although he didn't believe in it. I can tell you, I'm writing that in a book. Raila did not believe in the broad-based thing. That's why Edwin Sifuna is carrying that vision, along with Jim Orengo. Those are the few people carrying my late brother's vision within ODM. And I wish them well. So, that whole thing, as marks of great uncertainty. But my regret then is these people feel we've been in opposition. Others say you go to government to eat. They feel disenfranchised because, of course, if I was in government with Raila, some of the high professionals will have come from my party. So these are 15 years of deprivation. And they're asking how long. So to me, that's a regret. And I want to assure them their time is coming. Their time is coming, but of course we'll lay emphasis on meritocracy. That is what Kibaki and us started. So nobody should expect to get easy appointment as ambassador, as permanent secretary, as minister. Yeah. But those regions have been marginalized. And where William Ruto wants to use somebody, he uses mediocrity to give impression that the region is taken care of. That's my regret, that there are people who feel that because of me, they have not achieved what the objectives were. And here I remember Mzee Moja, who is an old respected friend called David Musela. Musela could have been minister, but because of me, he never became. He could have been governor. He never became governor. So I kind of have a sense of regret that some people whose hopes were hinged on my own career progression may not have achieved their own objectives. But on the whole, I think that God's plan is the best. I believe it is divinity, and I'm not being dogmatic about it. I think politics also is a calling. For me, it has been a calling, and I want to see it through. This calling, I want to see it through for the benefit of my fellow citizens.
Yeah. And when you look at ODM, the split right now, you just talked about Sifuna and Orengo, and of course Babu and the rest of that split. And there's, of course, there's Dr. Buru, and there's Gladys Wanga, there's Abdul Samad on the other side. Is Orange split down the middle?
Obviously, because what happens in a sister party affects all of us. Because Kenya is a multi-party democracy. Although we may not be on the same side with them, but please remember that ODM just gave notice, but not that ODM, not Sifuna's ODM. Karoli Omondi on Friday, was it, to Fungamano, loudly said, ODM is in Azimio la Umoja, one Kenya. Dr. Oburu's faction gave notice to withdraw from Azimio. So I have a direct interest in what is happening. And I think my coalition colleagues as well. But I can tell you, you heard me say, I spend a sizable chunk of my political life working with Raila Odinga. And I knew his mind. And that's why I went to mourn him in my own way when he passed on, because his friend did not even give us notice, didn't even allow us to bury him in the kind of time we would want. So we had to catch up with Raila Odinga. But I happen to know he was not for this broad-based government. And so when you see Jim Orengo, you see Raila Odinga. Peter Nyang'nyong is another Raila Odinga. But I know that Peter is given an assignment to work on the Singapore Road, for example. So he may be a little quiet, but I know that Peter Nyang'nyong, Jim Orengo, Edwin Sifuna, Osotsi, all right? And to some extent, Oparanya. But Oparanya seems to get mixed up. He's my friend. He once told me, oh, you, Kina Kalonzo, you have no money, blah, blah, blah. I have some sweets in my mouth. You want to take the sweets out? I laughed. I don't think he's sitting pretty and comfortable. So, the Sifuna team is very clear. They are saying they are with us in the one-term Clarion Call, which, by the way, has become a national anthem.
Finally.
So, we hope to work with them to make this country better. It reminds me of what happened between LDP, then Rainbow, and I was one of them. It was me, the first signatory, Raila Odinga, George Saitoti, Mudi Awori, right? Rainbow.
Yes.
And then Kibaki, Kijano Amalwa, and Charity Ngilu in NAK. We're almost getting there. History repeats itself. I think we're most likely going to get together. And if we do, I think it was in the best interest of the country.
All right. Mahesh, you get the final word. Speak to Kenyans. What do you tell them going forward?
Well, thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity. I know we are all hurting. Affording even medical bills is a problem. Putting food on the table is a problem. Kenyans are hurting every which way. But I want to remind them of what the late Reverend Jesse Jackson said. He was buried the other day when he started the Rainbow Movement. He was a civil rights activist. And he said, America, keep hope alive. I want to tell fellow Kenyans, we must not give up. But we must also say no, and firmly no to misrule, to confusion in terms of governance of our country. Say never again shall we allow an institution like IEBC to mess up with the people's future. Because a lot decide. The moment you mess up with IEBC, you're messing up the future of this country. So let's all join together and together take out the votes now. An opportunity has arisen. I know that young Kenyans are still very angry. They were very doubtful about even registering. They say, what for? But they have come up on their own volition. Hashtag Tukokadi. Let's allow them that space. For once, I am not the one to tell them, do ABC, because they know precisely. But we'll be there with them. These are our children. We'll walk with them. We'll make sure reparations are done. And we'll make sure never again will the police guide goons to go and beat innocent Kenyans as if we are a terrorist state. We are going to get these things right. And the time is now.
Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive.
Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, or SKM to his friends, he wants to be president. Will he be number 6? He's always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. Is this his moment? What do you think? Lots of tweets coming in very thick and very fast. We're going to go back to the studio. Olive, what are the people saying?
All right, thank you, Jeff. Lots of feedback. Let's sample a few. Here we have, let's see who's first up. Here we have the
at CEO Amoit Company. We tried a plant expert. He kept watering problems and pruning solutions. Now let's try a lawyer. At least they know how to argue the weeds out of the system. All right, let's see. This is Prono 974905. Seems the show was about William Ruto. We waited anxiously thinking Manstivo will tell us the plan. Still no plan. All right, this is at M. Ndalo, who says Kalonzo official should ask Kwavinya Ndeti to pay suppliers and genuine contractors, suppliers, for it will tarnish his name. What is going on in Machakos County is shameful to Wiper as a party. This is at Vinny Majanga, who says, does Honorable Kalonzo mean if they don't win the election, it will have been stolen? We should stop this notion that if one doesn't win, it means it was unfair. We should sober up. Having people in rallies doesn't count to votes to be isn't tantamount to votes being casted. All right, this is at Size Mo Allen, who says, I'd want to know why he was nicknamed Watermelon. Today, the whole country has seen an agendaless individual. Empty talk, a lot of English. No wonder Sekuru is seeing Tarmac Road in 2026, 40 years with him being in government in all fashions. Thank you, Jeff. We now know better. This is at Kipla Bet, who says future President Kalonzo has been loyal to the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga. That automatically means akosaidi yetu hadi mwisho. Ujue uko na kura yangu hapa bonde la ufa. This is at Neil Son, who says, as currently is, Kalonzo Musyoka stands the best chance to be president today. He's more unifying than any other politician, has a good diplomatic rating, and has a solid legal background. He's the best pick from both the KK regime and the United Opposition. He has my vote in 2027. This is Rachel, who says at Kalonzo Musyoka has always been calm and collected. He understands the 2010 Constitution very well. I admire his eloquence too. This is Makoha Godwin, who says, please tell Kalonzo Musyoka, as the elder of the opposition, to make sure that all the members of the opposition gang up against William Ruto. We are taking votes, but having Musyoka, Fred Matiang'i, Rigathi, and Edwin Sifuna, all of them on the ballot, the registration will be of no value. This is at Muchesia Anyika, who says, why can't Kalonzo become a good elder and guide young people such as Sifuna and Ndindi Nyoro to the presidency and Babu for Nairobi governor instead of vying? What is this new thing he wants to bring other than guiding the youth? And this is at It's